With us is the Conservative MP for Rossendale and Darwin, Jake Berry. Are you still MP now in the wee election? When does that stop?
Yeah, a few more days.
A few more days, okay, because then you all become DMP'd for a while. Yeah,
correct.
During the campaign. And Aaron Bastani, who is the co-founder of Novara Media, which is described as a progressive new media outlet. You're a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn, Aaron, and you don't like this.
What, this slander this morning? I absolutely don't. No way.
Even though you heard the professor saying that he's an expert, he doesn't really know what it means.
Well, it's pretty widely known that Boris talks a lot of rubbish about a lot of rubbish, so no change there.
So you think it is not acceptable to be personal about the leader of the opposition?
No, Boris can say what he likes. Let's talk about the policies.
Right. Jake Berry, is that not what people have a hunger for in your constituency and elsewhere?
Yeah, well, I think people do want to hear about the policies. But, hold on. I hope you're bracing yourself here, because the two slogans you are going to hear throughout this election is strong leadership versus a coalition of chaos from my party, the Conservative Party, which absolutely is, of course, true in all possible ways. And probably from the Labour Party, you're going to hear for the many, not the few, and, several days to save the NHS. And we will get bored to tears, Jeremy, throughout this election, hearing this message from the political parties trying to convince us to go out and vote one way and the other. And I say, hurrah, that someone has come up and shaken it up on the first few days of the campaign and introduced the word mugwump and had us all reaching for our dictionaries. So while I think in politics you shouldn't sort of gratuitously insult your opposition, I do think there is still room for people to go out there, have a bit of fun, to jazz it up and get away from these sort of stale sound bites that we are going to hear throughout the entirety of the next 6 weeks. So we will be desperate for someone to come up with another word like mugwump the day before the polling.
Well, look, I actually think this isn't a break with conventional strategy. I think this is in line with it. What we're seeing is a Linton Crosby dead cat. Labour have had 3 or 4 policies very popular in 3 or 4 days. Bank holidays, obviously on low pay. Now we're seeing today on housing, yesterday on the NHS. And the point is to distract the media class, political debate, away from these policies, very popular, to the idiocy of the Foreign Secretary. And we saw it last weekend with Michael Fallon saying very similar things. I think they've sort of stepped it up today with Boris. And this is not an outrider. This is not a man who's deviating from party strategy. This is absolutely in keeping with it. We've seen it with Linton Crosby in 2005 here, 2015. We saw it, of course, in Canada. We saw it in London last year, both in Canada against Justin Trudeau and in London against
Maybe
Sadiq Khan.
It works then.
It failed, OK? And there is no plan B with Crosby, which I think
Justin Trudeau win that election?
He was working for the Conservatives, I should say.
OK, right. So the Conservatives won here in 2015, of course, against the Wind. So it worked for them.
It worked
then.
But the last 2 times with Sadiq Khan in London and with the Canadian election, it has felt, and he has no plan B.
Jeremy, I think what Boris is really saying here, and maybe Michael Fallon actually, there is a feeling out there with the electorate, which I think he's given voice to, is that Jeremy Corbyn is an independently minded, slightly off-the-wall politician. I was thinking about that this morning when I knew I was coming on this programme. I was looking back at an early day motion, which is a motion before Parliament that Jeremy Corbyn signed in 2003 about the use of flying pigeons during the Second World War as potential bombs. And in that early day motion, which he signed, he called for the human species, the most lethal, uncivilised and cruel and perverted, obscene species on the planet, to be wiped out by an asteroid to give nature its chance to take control back over the earth. And in truth, well, he signed it. He signed it in 2003. This is the guy who wants to become. This is the guy who wants to become prime minister, who signs motions in Parliament. Him and John McDonnell, and of course the late Tony Banks, of course, signed motions in Parliament calling for the wipeout of the human race by an asteroid. And it's not fake news. It's on the Parliamentary website. People can go and find it. So I suppose Boris is just giving voice to that real feeling out there in the public that this guy, Jeremy Corbyn, who's, trying to put out that he should be our next Prime Minister, can't be trusted. And he's just, and I think he's given real voice, and that's why the public have grabbed hold of his comment.
Is personal? I mean, in the end, an election campaign is about Mrs May versus Mr Corbyn, is it not?
Absolutely.
Personal.
The 2 prime ministers really matter. We don't have a presidential system, but let's be honest, that's often how it feels, increasingly so in recent years. The choice is very simple. Yes, the Tories will repeat ad infinitum, strong and stable, strong and stable. Strong for who? They're strong for the strong against the weak. They're weak
when it comes... this is the Labour catchphrase. This is coming out.
finish. Let me finish. No, let me finish. The point is, I want to talk about
strong
policies.
for the strong. Go on, give it to us, because I've got confused there.
Well, they govern for the millionaires against the millions when it comes to corporate gains tax, corporate tax cuts, when it comes to subsidising landlords with housing benefit rather than building new homes like Jeremy Corbyn's proposed today. 500,000 social houses and housing association houses in the first term of the Labour government, 1 million overall. So it's about realigning where money's going. Right now, it's going to big business with corporate tax cuts. It's going to landlords with housing benefit. We want to give it to people, to build homes, to make affordable houses, get people on the property ladder, and yes, give tax cuts to working people, ordinary people, not increase VAT while decreasing corporation tax.
Do you think, Jake Berry, that your party tends to be... Theresa May said it was the nasty party. Do you think you're sort of more vitriolic with the insults than the others? And I mentioned that because at the last election, things were tootling along perfectly happily, and then Mr. Fallon, Michael Fallon, who's now the Defence Secretary, said Ed Miliband stabbed his own brother in the back to become Labour leader. Now he's willing to stab the United Kingdom in the back to become Prime Minister. Everyone went,
well,
what?
Sometimes you get these sort of cut-through comments, and the reason they cut through all the political sort of fog that we're going to see over the next few weeks is people out there in the public go, yeah, I get that, I can understand that. But in truth, what we have here at this election is going to be a contest between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn, and anything we can do to point out that Jeremy Corbyn is unfit to be the next Prime Minister of this country.
Why won't she debate that?
He wants to undermine NATO.
On the BBC?
He wants to undermine our armed forces.
Why won't she debate
has a history of supporting terrorism. This is how it works. I get to say, we can have a debate in a moment, but he wants to undermine...
She won't do a TV debate, but
she wants to undermine our armed forces. He wants to, he has a history of supporting terrorism. He has a history of signing motions in Parliament calling for asteroids to hit the Earth. This guy is not fit to be the Prime Minister after the general election.
Aaron, when I asked you that before, you said you talked about the policies, the NHS and council houses, etc. But how do you answer the questions about Mr. Corbyn personally?
Sure. Well, so in regard to, say, Trident, big policy. Labour's a democratic party, so people are going to have a range of opinions. Our policy
leader, right?
has been decided, and it's totally clear. We replaced Trident with another nuclear deterrent.
He doesn't want that.
No, we do. He does want that. He's been very clear. We're having a review to see on what would be the most cost-effective or most efficient replacement. The Tories don't want to do that.
But I was asking you, sorry to interrupt, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I was asking, moving us on from the policies to the personalities.
Right.
And I asked you about how do you defend Mr. Corbyn against the kind of thing we've heard from Jake, which is looking at his record, the IRA stuff, then the asteroid stuff, and how do you defend him against that?
I would defend him like I've defended him so far. I say to the average person, Theresa May will not put more money in your pocket. She will not get you on the housing ladder. She will not send your kids to university. Simple as that. And it's the truth, which is always a benefit.
All right,
it's always a benefit.
He may be eccentric in your view, Jake, but he's got the right policies, says your opponent here.
Well, I think, over the last 7 years of a Conservative-led coalition and then a Conservative majority government, we have seen our economy growing. We have seen the Help to Buy scheme helping record numbers of people to realise their dream of owning their own home. We've seen educational standards improving across schools. People know that. When I go out around my constituency in Rossendale and Darwin, there is that feel-good factor out there about the economy getting better for everyone. We've had a massive increase in people's wages with the introduction of the living wage.
Wow.
People are keeping more of the money that they earn by the increase in the personal allowance. All of those good Conservative ideas helping create a country that works for everyone, as Theresa May has said. But there is one other question on this ballot paper.
Is that
there is one other question on this ballot paper, and that is who is going to be the best to go out there and negotiate with global leaders for Brexit, a Brexit that works for Britain. I can tell you that Theresa May is tough as guts, and she is going to be out there driving the best deal for Britain. And frankly, people have to work out, do they trust Jeremy Corbyn to go out and negotiate that deal? I don't think he's got the right priorities for Britain. I don't actually think he has the qualities that we need in a tough Prime Minister to go out there and get the best deal.
All right, Aaron, answer that.
Yeah, so if Theresa May's so tough, go on a televised debate, go with the other leaders and really defend your policies, defend your record. She won't defend her record as PM over the last year, nor the Tories since 2010, for a simple reason. It's indefensible. Wages down 10.4% over the last 9 years. Some of that's Labour, most of it's Tories. Productivity, flat. GDP per hour worked or per person working, flat. The deficit, £60 billion a year. Jake, it was meant to have been gone 2 years ago. So on every single mark, wages, GDP, productivity, the deficit, failure, failure, failure. So living standards standards going down. By the way, after the budget, the Resolution Foundation said that the 2010s will be the worst decade on record for wage growth since the 1780s, since the steam engine. Okay, so we have big problems here. And it's insulting.
This is good. We started with politics.
MPs, Tory MPs need to. You may have something you might want to trumpet about, say we've achieved X, Y, or Z, but don't deceive people. The economy is going south. It has been for a long time.
I think you've had an equal share.
We've got the fastest growing economy in Europe. It doesn't quite.
Let me hold that. This is good because you started on the personality thing and then we moved to policies, and I hope you've both had an equal shout, and we really appreciate your time. Jake Berry, Conservative MP for Rossendale and Darwin, and Aaron Bastani. Is it Aaron or Aaron? I always get it wrong.
My mum always said Aaron, so you
Aaron,
can say
okay.
Jeremy.
You can't disagree with your mum, Jeremy. Come on.
Aaron's mum, co-founder of Novara Media, Radio 2.